Hello and a very warm welcome to the brand new edition of To The Point. I'm Kriti Mishra, and on today's show we have with us Health and Family Welfare Minister Dr. Harshvardhan. Sir, welcome to Rajya Sabha Television and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Welcome.
First of all, a year on, 47 lakh patients got treatment under Ayushman Bharat, worth 7,500 crore rupees. In fact, Prime Minister also hailed this scheme in his address in United Nations General Assembly. A year on, hits and misses according to you in Ayushman Bharat scheme.
I think by and large the Ayushman Bharat scheme has been hugely successful. It has literally broken all records of expectation. The scheme is being watched by people all around the world. The Prime Minister was asked to talk about universal health coverage at the United Nations. He was lauded by everybody across the globe for his efforts to initiate Ayushman Bharat in the country. And within the first year itself, you are talking about 47 lakhs. I think the latest number is reaching almost 5 million now. That's it's reaching 50 lakhs. Over 18,000 hospitals, 18,200 to be very precise, hospitals have been empaneled under the scheme. More than 50% of them are in the private sector. Almost I think 40,000 patients have got treatment at a place which is neither their birthplace, neither their workplace. They fell sick somewhere else in the country and they could enter any hospital in that place without even a penny in their pocket, and they got the best treatment, whether it was a tertiary care or a secondary care. Over 10 crore people have got their golden cards or the e-cards. So the scheme now has entered a phase where we are using artificial intelligence to detect fraud cases, because as has been true for the Modi government, there is thoroughly, I would say, zero tolerance to any type of fraud or corruption in the scheme, and all mechanisms possible with the use of technology are being used to detect fraud, to diagnose it, and then also to take strong action against the erring or the people who are involved in the fraud. That is why over 100 hospitals have been depaneled, and now the government has also started a name and shame policy, whereby we are putting the names of all these hospitals on our website. And today itself we have decided that apart from the name and shame, we are going to you can say put those hospitals also on the website, where we say it's a name and fame policy for those delivering exemplary services. And along with the this PMJY, PMJ, what you call popularly, this is about the treatment that 55 crore people are likely to get through this scheme. That's about 10.74 crore families, and money worth almost rupees 5 lakh per family is going to be spent on them. Apart from this 55 crore families, the whole scheme has ensured that 32 states and union territories are already on board. It is only 4 states which haven't joined the scheme till now. We are pursuing with them also, and now the scheme is entering its second phase, where we are putting the second, you can say, subsequent edition of the IT 2.0 system, whereby further modified IT driven systems are going to be put in place, which I am sure will be the not only the state of the art, which already it is, but they will probably be comparable to anything best in the IT sector anywhere in the world in any scheme. We are also ensuring that there is a accreditation for quality of the hospitals who are empaneled. So it's being done by the Quality Council of India. Now in the next year we are also ensuring that we have a competition where we involve the young innovators is a sort of a challenge in a challenge mode where there is a grand challenge for innovations to make the schemes much better and also more useful, more productive for the people. And of course issues like rates, which was the usual complaint of the private hospitals, aberrations like packages and some packages being unnecessary, some packages being not finding their place in the list of packages, all that has been taken care of by a group of almost 300 expert doctors belonging to the private as well as the public sector. So virtually everything has been taken care of, and then to add to this is the fact that the scheme's other component was the establishment of health and wellness centers all over the country, for which the target is to put in place 1.5 lakh health and wellness centers all across the country by the end of 2022. This is the year where the Prime Minister in 2017 pledged to the whole country that he has a dream of delivering. I would say that the Ayushman Bharat scheme or the big social and the health movement of this country will go down in not only in India's history, but it will go down in world's history as one of the most successful programs. It is no doubt even now the world's most ambitious program. The whole world is determined to provide universal health coverage to every person on the globe by 2030, and that's the Sustainable Development Goal 3. And here is a Prime Minister who has done it for a country which has a population of 1.35 billion right now. So by any dimension, by any parameter, whether it is a national parameter or an international parameter, I think the program has been hugely successful. It is for people like you to evaluate it most objectively and also to inform the people of India about it. I had the privilege to meet a lot of beneficiaries in the early part of this year when the Prime Minister said that the cabinet ministers should go and meet such people and try to find out what are the improvements that we could suggest to him to be incorporated in the program. And I remember a lot of patients who became so emotional while delivering their experiences. They said Narendra Modi is a god for us.
But sir, even as we celebrate the achievements of Ayushman Bharat, experts point out that there are challenges of sustainability and also synchronization with the states. Your comments?
I think as far as the challenges, I think whatever has been achieved was a hugely challenging task, but it has been accomplished successfully. As far as the synchronization with the states is concerned, I think there is so much of flexibility in the program that we have done it so ably well with 32 states, and there is enough of you see cushion in the program. That's why the 32 states have done it so well, and we don't see any problem. Any patient taking treatment anywhere in the country. So we are working on the whole program with a very, very open mind. We are asking for people's responses, we are asking for patients' responses, and we are not the ones who are averse to any criticism. We would like, we are even I would say appealing to the media also to please let us know whatever cases you hear about any fraud in the whole system, They are these frauds are the ones which have been divulged to the media by us. This is not that the media did something extraordinary to find those frauds. So I don't think that there is any problem with coordination with the states. There is any problem with synchronization, because there is so much of flexibility in the program, and this is an excellent example of cooperative federalism that the whole world is watching with so much of you see, to do it in a small place could be easy, and now we are like coordinating and synchronizing with today we have done it with ESI also, that has been officially like signed. All the state schemes and all now with their own experiences, past experiences, they have now got themselves merged into the national Ayushman Bharat scheme. So it's I think the journey has been quite satisfying, and I would like to place on record my great sense of appreciation, not only for the Prime Minister, who is like a visionary, not only converted the idea into a program, but has also monitored it very meticulously over the past 1 year, and of course the team of the National Health Authority and the State Health Authority people, they have also done it very meticulously. Now the challenge as I envisage is that we have to make sure that all these 55 crore people, that's about 550 million people, they are apprised of the fact that there is a scheme for which they are the potential beneficiaries. So we are trying our level best to, in the next 1 year, our effort would be to make each and everybody aware of the this particular fact. You know, already the Prime Minister wrote over 7-8 crore letters. They were delivered to the homes also. We are using all possible communication tools. We would appeal to the media also to help us in ensuring that no potential beneficiary is deprived of the benefits of Ayushman Bharat just because he was unaware about the scheme. So that is our biggest challenge right now, to make more and more people aware about the benefits of the scheme.
Absolutely, sir, and we hope that this cohesion remains. But moving on, Centre has issued an ordinance to ban sale, import, production and distribution of e-cigarettes. What are the harmful effects of e-cigarettes, and what prompted the Centre to take this decision?
You see, you know that already against the use of tobacco, there is a very organized movement all over the world, even which has been initiated by the World Health Organization. 25 years back, when I was Health Minister in Delhi, I had introduced the first anti-tobacco legislation in the country, that was the Delhi Prohibition of Smoking and Non-Smokers Health Protection Bill. The bill drew huge applause from everybody, of course, except the tobacco companies, and the Supreme Court then had said that all state governments must enact similar legislations in the country. So the similar legislation was enacted all over the country, and then at a national level also. And then I remember that under Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, in New Delhi itself, in the presence of WHO Director General, there was a huge movement where the FCTC was launched, the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, which is an international movement where almost all the countries of the world, they participate with a well-defined common strategy to fight the tobacco menace. Now these e-cigarettes, I think this is a growing menace for last at least for last 1 or 2 decades, and more prominently during the last couple of years, and it is growing quite strongly in the country also. And all these e-cigarettes, you know, this ultimately they are being created or being sold or being manufactured, or the real owners of this e-cigarette activity is of course the tobacco companies, and they are so harmful for the youth, and the way they are being picturized as something which can help you in quitting tobacco, quitting cigarettes. I think that's a total misconception, that's a misinformation, and that's like a sort of a cheating with the people and misguiding the youth of the country. So, and this is already banned in over 30 countries of the whole world. So, for our Prime Minister and for our Health Ministry, it is our duty to passionately work for anything which is detrimental to the health of the society, and more particularly to the youth of the country. And that is why we took this step of enacting this ordinance and getting it approved by the cabinet and then the President of India. And I am sure this will go a long way, because there is going to be a ban on everything, starting from manufacturing to storage to, of course, use. There cannot be two opinions about the fact that e-cigarettes are very, very harmful, and they have to be, we have to nip the problem in the bud. That's the basic idea, because in the early stages, when there are not many users like they are for the other tobacco consumption activities, we need to curtail it at this stage.
Absolutely, sir. But talking about important legislations, your ministry has also come out with a draft law to protect the doctors from assault. What's the roadmap ahead?
You see, there had been incidents of violence against doctors all over the country for quite some time, and as soon as I took over as health minister in Nirman Bhavan, I think within few days we had that incidents of assault on doctors in West Bengal, and following that there was strike not only in West Bengal, it was replicated in many parts of the country, including of course in Delhi also. This issue had been flagged earlier also by the Association of Doctors, but it came into prime limelight at that time, and I had decided immediately that we must enact a central legislation to ensure that those who work in the health systems, in the hospitals and other related places, no one has the right to assault a doctor on duty. You can't take the law into your own hands, and that's why we have already in consultation with all the relevant ministries, in consultation with all the stakeholders, we have taken everybody's opinion. We have enacted a relevant law also, and this is against this assault and assault type and violence type of activities. And this law, after having got clearance from the law ministry, it has been put in the public domain now. I intend to, after its scrutiny by the people and after receiving their comments, I intend to take it to the cabinet, and then of course to the parliament in the winter session.
The National Medical Commission Act has come to force. You held parleys with the entire medical fraternity. How would this important act change the medical landscape of India?
I would say, and I had said that in Parliament also, in Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, that the National Medical Commission Act now, which we have produced before the Parliament, it got approval from both the houses and now has got its assent from the Rashtrapati ji also. Now we are in the process of making the National Medical Commission. That process has also got initiated. I had said it earlier also, and I repeat again, whenever the history of the performance of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's government will be written, there will be many points to highlight the historic things that he has done. But in the field of medical education, this will be written in golden letters, that this is probably the greatest reform that has been done for the country, and more particularly for the medical education of the country. It will help us in strengthening the medical education level quantitatively, qualitatively, quality of medical colleges, their infrastructure, the quality of medical education will also ensure good quality control over the level of you can say quality in the medical education field, and it will certainly help the country in you can say strengthening the delivery of health services at the grassroots level, also at our health and wellness centers. So there are many components of it. It will introduce transparency, integrity, honesty into the functioning of the medical council like activities, which were, I think, for many years they had earned a bad name for themselves because of the practices that were prevalent there. Now we have enough safeguards in the National Medical Commission to ensure that those who handle National Medical Commission, they are people of integrity, and there is an inherent inbuilt mechanism in the act itself to ensure that there is a public display of their integrity, their assets, their connection with anything which can damage the integrity. It's a historic reform, and it's very satisfying for me that I got the privilege of introducing it in Parliament.
So you're talking about protection of rights. Many feel that the centre must do more to rein in the private hospitals as far as overbilling is concerned or medical negligence is concerned. Do we see any step in that direction?
I think there is already a Clinical Establishments Act in the country which has been passed by Parliament, and it has been delivered to the states. Now it is for the states to basically, some of the states have already done something on this front. They have enacted either the same law they have enacted in their states, or they have made some changes in that. But you know, the health is a state subject. At the central level, it is not that everything can be done at the central level. We can frame guidelines, we can enact legislations, but it is the states and the relevant health authorities who have to basically take care. It is also the duty of the medical associations also to regulate their own people. It is not only the councils that have to regulate, but the medical associations, I also feel that they should also be regulating their own profession in a better way, because sometimes a handful of you can say bad people, they spoil the image of the whole profession. As a medical professional, I have always felt that it is something which cannot be controlled only with the help of law. We need to strengthen the aspects related to medical ethics at the medical college level, the Hippocratic Oath, the medical ethics. And of course, I may inform you that for the first time in last 20 years, the whole MBBS curriculum has been changed and it has been redefined, and there is a focus on living with the times and ensuring that whatever is the need of the hour, that's taken care of. And of course, there is a significant amount of focus on ensuring medical ethics also. So if you teach them young, when they are inside the medical colleges, then of course later on we can expect better performance at the field level.
So there's another imperative issue. Prime Minister said that act or family planning is also an act of patriotism. How are you planning to prioritize family planning across the country?
You see, as far as family planning is concerned, there is already a huge program in the country, and you know all these programs related to women welfare and dealing with issues of women health and child health. They are all directly, indirectly related with family, small family norm and use of contraceptives, distribution of contraceptives, sterilizations. All this, I think, goes on very aggressively in the government system, and we try to provide all possible help, guidance, and the whole thing is being you can say propagated, and in terms of dissemination of related education to the people right at the grassroots levels. And the Prime Minister has rightly said this is something which needs a bit of a self-realization also. More of education have to be given to the, and that's why the focus has to be on educating the girl child, more and more the girl child, and irrespective of any caste, creed or religion, everybody needs to be taught. And there is so much of focus in this government on Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao. So if you teach one Beti properly, I am sure that it makes a lot of difference, and it adds a good quality strength to the family planning program. So it has to be developed like a huge social movement. Of course, there had been schemes for incentives and disincentives, but ultimately what's going to matter is education and realization and teaching, and using all possible scientific tools and making them available to the people of India in plenty amount at all places. I am sure that under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, there is so much of emphasis on ensuring that every bright idea is converted into a good program. And once he has talked about it from the ramparts of Red Fort, so he also realizes and appreciates the importance of family planning for India. So we are expecting people of India to take a cue from what he says, and I think he is saying it in the interest of every family in the country.
India plans to increase public health spending to 2.5% of GDP. How do you plan to increase per capita health expenditure in the coming years in India?
You see, you know that this is something which was part of the 2017 National Health Policy, and gradually since then you find that there is a increase in the healthcare spending which is happening gradually. If it was not the intention or the desire of the government, then we wouldn't have seen a scheme like Ayushman Bharat in the country. And I am very, very hopeful that much before the deadline that has been set for 2.5% of GDP spending on health, it will be achieved. And as a strong votary of you can say healthcare movement in the country, and for ensuring that India develops the health for all success as a country where the others in the world can emulate our example, I am sure that in times to come we will have much more of budget on health. This year also we had an increase over the past year quite significantly, and I am sure that in the coming years we will see far better improvements. I had a meeting and we presented our case before the learned and dynamic Mr. N.K. Singh, the chairman of the Finance Commission. Also there also we have projected the needs of the health department, and I am sure that we will get better support from the Finance Commission and the government in future.
All right, sir. Point well taken. On that note, thank you so much for talking to Rajya Sabha Television. It was a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Welcome.